Good evening. Today on All Things Small Business, the construction industry from a Black CEO's perspective. But first, how ministry and entrepreneurship come together. So I'm going to give you 60 seconds to go tell a friend, tune in, and join the conversation. Be right back. Hey everybody, I'm Denise Smith. Welcome to All Things Small Business. I've got some great guests for you this evening. My first guest is Pastor Orlando Jermain Bego, CEO of Bego Enterprises. So, hello, Pastor.
Hey, good evening. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me on this evening.
Well, thank you for being here. I've heard really great things about you and your company, and I'm hopefully you are ready to share with my audience a little bit about what it is that you do and who you are. So could we just start with you talking about a little bit about your background, where you're from, and what you do?
Absolutely. Well, Orlando Jermain Bego. I am a native Washingtonian, born and raised in Washington, D.C. Started out, I guess, at the early age of 12, hustling candy in school. I'm the youngest of three children. Been in church my whole life, but also been a part of the community, and always search for opportunities to how we merge both a business aspect and ministry together into one.
Okay. And so you're the CEO of Bego Enterprises. What is Bego Enterprises?
Yeah, so Bego Enterprise is a multi-pronged consulting firm. So we deal a lot around energy, commercial real estate development, taking needs that we oftentimes find in the nonprofit sector, particularly for churches and houses of worship, and connecting them with businesses that have resources at their disposal to help those industries grow.
So, and where's your business based? Is it here in Prince George's County? Is it in DC?
Yeah, so the business is located in Washington, D.C. and Prince George's County. We are registered in Prince George's County in the state of Maryland, but we're also registered as a foreign corporation in Washington, D.C. So we service churches, nonprofits, and businesses in both Washington, D.C., Prince George's County, the state of Maryland, as well as Virginia.
Okay. And what type of consulting is it that you do? What type of who are your clients and how do you help them?
Yeah, so our primary clients on the consulting side of the business have been churches and faith-based organizations. In Washington, D.C. alone, the major landholder are houses of worship. And so because of that, because of the buildings and all of the additional land that they own, what my company has done over the years is created this portfolio of resources and services to help them navigate the ever-changing landscape in Washington, D.C. That is now pivoting some because a lot of the houses of worship are selling their land and their property and moving to Prince George's County. And so because of that, we're now creating a new niche and finding a new market in Prince George's County as churches are moving to the suburbs. So we have real estate consultants on our team. We have MBA professionals on our team. We have individuals that help churches develop a host of different legal aspects of establishing themselves. All out on that team so that we can make sure that churches have the resources necessary to stay viable in the community.
So when did you see, or, when did you see a need for services like this?
So I, like I say, born and raised in Washington, D.C. I've been in ministry for over 20 years. My home church is located in Ward 7 of Washington, D.C. And so 20 years ago, I began to notice this shift, this change in community in which how churches have to play a more pivotal role in providing services to the community. And top of that, with the ever-changing economy. 20 years ago, less than 20 years ago, about 13 years ago is when we had the bubble, right? And so churches were in a position where they were under President Bush at that time, the faith-based initiative. And so churches were able to be streamlined in receiving grants to provide services in the community. But then the bubble happened, funding dried up, grants were not available, governments changed. And so churches were left with this vacuum. How do they begin to meet the needs in their community? And so Centerpoint and so Bego Enterprise stepped in to fill that void, began to tap into some of the businesses that were more socially aware of some of the things that were happening, particularly in the inner city and urban areas, and began to connect and marry those two together.
Okay. And so can you talk about a specific project or that you're working on, that would fulfill, that helps and fulfill that need? Absolutely.
And over the last 3 years, Bego Enterprise has been working with houses of worship in Washington, D.C. about affordable housing real estate development. As I stated, that in Washington, D.C., churches are the major land owner. And so whether it is the property that the church currently has is main edifice or parking lot or undeveloped land, we began to take churches and partner them with commercial real estate developers in an area to deal with this pandemic around housing, affordable housing in Washington, D.C. And so we currently have about 6 churches in Washington, D.C. That we're providing consulting services with for them to do real estate development, affordable housing. And not just housing, it is always about reimagining the space. And so each one of these 6 properties are different. Some are developing affordable housing for seniors, others for veterans. Some of them are taking the excess space and building out commercial kitchens to rent. Others are taking the excess space and developing office space to rent out. Because one of the things that I go in and I share is that you ought to let the offerings of your ministry take care of ministry, and let your building take care of the bills. And so now you have to reimagine, what do you do with all of this property? Most of your larger churches in Washington, D.C. sit over 1,000 people, but have less than 10% of that in attendance. So how do you begin to reimagine that space where now the property is taking care of the bills and the building, and that what you focus in on ministry can take care of ministry?
So can you walk me through that? If you have all this property and some people are developing housing for seniors or for a group of people, how does it all work? Are they're finding housing or building houses?
We're building housing.
Okay, so you're building houses, and you're, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So you're building houses in the community. Are these already, and are these houses that are new homes or rehab homes?
Right, that's an excellent question. These are from the ground up developments that we are in the midst of doing in Washington, D.C. Some of them are the properties that the church is currently occupying, and we will tear down that existing structure and build a brand new edifice with a church and retail space and commercial space inside of it. Some of them are access property, like a vacant lot that the church has, and we're going to be building 20, 30, and sometimes even 40 unit buildings, brand new edifices to deal with the issue around affordable housing in Washington, D.C.
And how, do you play a part in helping the residents that move into these houses be able to find the funding as well? Or is that on the church's side?
Yeah. No, that's a great question, because what we are putting together in this faith-based initiative has many different components. And so we are working with churches. For an example, our faith-based initiative that we worked out with developers in Washington, D.C. was 51% ownership of the development project to the church. So the church always maintains the majority stake in the development. We then develop for each property a employment program, and so there may be persons in the community or persons in a congregation who have skills and trades. We walk them through the process of developing their own micro business enterprise, getting them licensed, bonded, and insured, so that they can work on the project in their own community. We then develop a resource center for persons in the community, so that we can develop this first source list of individuals who may be available to move into these buildings when they are complete. I would add that last year, when the pandemic hit, it really put a wrinkle, so to say, because the economy shut down. And so because of that, Bego Enterprise really had to pivot in some degree, because government has shut down, corporate America has shut down, and funding began to stop because we were in the midst of this pandemic. And so Bego Enterprise shifted a little bit to dealing with PPE, personal protection equipment, and more into the medical arena. But now the economy is opening back up. And so now we have, because of the pandemic, a whole new category with Bego Enterprise.
Okay. How long has Bego Enterprises been in existence?
So Bego Enterprise has been in existence for 10 years. We started off as a building maintenance company. We were servicing retail grocery stores, and through Safeways and Giants. We probably had about, I would say, 50 grocery stores that we were doing building maintenance for, and then economy collapsed. And then with single phone calls, we lost 98% of our contracts. And so because of that, again, we had to pivot. We had payroll, we had equipment and all of that. And then and all of it was gone when the economy collapsed. And so we have been in this mindset, even as a corporation, to still be entrepreneurial, to be what we call serial entrepreneurs, in order to look at where there is a need and allow Bego Enterprises to fill it.
Do you see entrepreneurship as a ministry?
Absolutely. Listen, people oftentimes forget about the Apostle Paul. They even as apostle. Although he was going around establishing churches, he never let go of his tent making business. Right. Okay. And so there were times in which the church did support the ministry, the churches that he established, because that was a part of their mission, but he was also business minded. And so he realized that in order to advance the gospel that he was spreading, in order to sustain himself in this world, he needed to maintain his own independence as a business. So I believe that entrepreneurship is a business, is a ministry, and is also a mindset. Not everybody is equipped. Not everybody has the mindset to be an entrepreneur. There has to be something inside of you that keeps you up at night and gets you up in the morning. And for some people, they just have it.
Mm-hmm. And you got it, huh? You got it.
And I got it. You see, I used to have it. But for entrepreneur, what's your motivation? Mm-hmm. What's your drive? What do you think about all the time? What's your passion? And I would say for me in Bego Enterprise, it's not just one thing in terms of a business or an idea, because I put relationship over profit, right? Okay. And so I spoke about being a serial entrepreneur, in that I have multiple streams of income, and I believe we all should have several streams of income at a single given time. But I'm also a social entrepreneur, and so I do not invest my time, my talent, or my treasure into business opportunities to do not better my community.
Okay. What do you find to be the most rewarding from owning your own business and helping other people? But I get that, but you know what I'm saying? What do you like most about owning your own business?
Can't nobody tell me what to do. Listen, I have not always been an entrepreneur, right? I have worked in federal government, local government. I've worked in nonprofits, but the most rewarding thing is that when I am accountable to myself, right? I have to answer to myself that I do the best that I could on this day, and so to be able to go out and make money for myself and not for somebody else is rewarding.
Okay. Yeah. But you know what? I hear you on that. And yes, it is a great benefit. And I get that a lot of people don't really want to work for themselves, but a lot of people hear that and they'll say, and they will think that that it's easy when it's not, right?
It's not easy. I think, there's been memes floating, for years. And I think the best way to put it in the memes that I've seen, I would rather work 80 hours for myself than 40 hours for someone else.
And I think that people need to hear that, because just because you're working for yourself doesn't mean it's not necessarily a 40-hour work week.
It absolutely is not a 40-hour work week. It doesn't mean it's going to be less stressful. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. But it is more rewarding.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, what do you find to be the most challenging about it?
The most challenging aspect of being an entrepreneur and being business for yourself is that it is a rat race, right? It takes more effort, more energy, more drive, more determination. You got to learn how to deal with the no before you can handle the yes, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Know what it means for somebody to say no, and don't be afraid for them to say no to you, right? And I had to teach that to my children. Listen, learn early that this ain't the first time you ever gonna hear no, and it won't be the last time. You want to hear more no's than you hear yeses.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So learn how to handle the no's in your life, in your business, in your ministry, because they're going to prepare and equip you to handle the yes.
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So you will have a dozen proposals floating out there all at one time, right? That don't mean you don't get a dozen offers in return.
Exactly. Especially when you're looking for that first client. What was it like for you when you first got out there? I mean, you obviously found your challenges and everything, but you know, what steps did you actually take to start that business and get it up off the ground?
So I had my first client before I had my first business.
Really?
Right?
Okay.
I received a phone call because somebody needed me to help them. Somebody needed me to help them do something in their store that they were a manager of. And I got up and I went and did it as a favor. And they say, oh, by the way, fill out this form and you're going to get paid. Well, that turned into them telling another manager at another store. And it spiraled, right? And so now I have 5 stores, 10 stores, 20 stores, right? And before I even had a business, right? Before I had an EIN number or had a corporation and articles to file and things like that. And so that came before the business. And what I have learned, what's important for any entrepreneur, any business, is to go and incorporate. Whether it's a corporation or LLP or a one-member LLC, go and incorporate your business with the state and go get your certifications. Put those, because those don't just legitimize you as a business, but they also protect you. Listen, when the economy collapsed, I lost everything. I lost a $500,000 business. Right? I lost my house. I lost my cars. I lost my truck. I lost everything because I was the personal guarantor. Right? Because I had to go out and get all of this equipment before I was a business. Right? So all of that was in my name. And when the economy collapsed back in 2008, I was unable to pay it because I lost all my contracts. And now I'm left with this mountain of debt that I can't service, right? And so I had to go file for bankruptcy. But if I had incorporated first, I would have had some legal protections that would have protected me personally.
Now, question: would you have incorporated as an LLC or a corporation? How do you know? How did you know? How are you incorporated now, and how do you know that is the best setup for your business?
I am still incorporated as a LLC, right? But my personal credit isn't attached to my LLC.
Okay.
Right. I have connected with a firm, and this is what, and as I say, I'm always looking for opportunities to pivot and provide resources to my community. I've connected with a firm. They're able to get me hundreds of thousands of dollars in business credit that is not attached to my personal credit.
Okay.
Right. And so the resource, the information is out there, is it's not readily available in our community. Right. Okay. And so I'm learning what some will call the tricks of the trade. Right. How do you even establish as an LLC, right? And don't attach your personal credit to your business and begin to build business lines of credit. That if there is something negative that happens, it does not impact you financially. Right. So we're getting ready. We just signed a MOU because I want to work it first. Right. Before I tell anybody else about it, I work it first. I want to make sure it's legit. I want to make sure that it's sustainable. Right. And so we're working it. We just signed the MOU, and by the spring, we're going to be starting to hold virtual conferences and workshops around how to establish business credit for yourself.
So that's what's next for Bego Enterprises?
That's what's next in the midst of our book, A Life of Success. A 90-day journey to wisdom, wealth, and wellness. Listen, we are in the midst of the pandemic. We're dealing with mental health issues. We're dealing with crises. We're dealing with how to deal with grief and loss. In the midst of that, what God spoke to me is teach the people how to protect their mind. Right. So prayerfully, in May, I'll be graduating from Morehouse School of Religion with a doctorate degree in pastoral care with an emphasis on mental health.
Congratulations.
Mental health and the Black church. Right. Okay. And so that's going to take me into another stream of income. We launched our 90-day journal around wisdom, wealth, and wellness, teaching people how to dedicate time around devotion and meditation and reading books. There's a section around wealth for us to track how much we spend, how much we save, how much we invest, and then also on wellness, right? As an entrepreneur, you can't be at your optimal unless your health is in place, right? So what are you eating? What are you drinking?
Absolutely.
How are you exercising? Because again, like we talked about it, you're going to work 80 hours. You're going to work 16 hours a day, right? That means your sleeping may only be 4 hours a day. And so you got to take care of yourself. So so we're doing all of this for our people, right? So that our people can be in a better place. You know, Jesus says, I come that you may have life and that life more abundant. And so I am working with my people, with my community about this. How do you live the abundant life that you were promised?
Okay. I had a little glitch there. Well, that sounds great. Listen, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. If anyone wanted to find out more information, where do they go?
Absolutely. 2 places they can go. All of my social media handles are at Pastor Bego Live, or you can go to my website, begoenterprise.com, begoenterprise.com.
Okay. All right, Pastor Bego. Have a great evening and thank you again. And I wish you all the best of luck and congratulations on your degree coming up in May.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. That was Pastor Bego of Bego Enterprises. Thank you again for tuning in. Next up, we have Shane Warren, who is CEO of Warren Brothers. Actually, it's Warren Builds. Warren Builds. When I bring him up, he's probably going to kill me, but you know, he knows why I would say Warren Brothers. But ladies and gentlemen, Shane Warren, CEO of Warren Builds. Hey, Shane, how are you?
I am good, Denise. Thank you. So I have my airline. So make sure I'm clear and I'm not all muffled and everything. So
okay, do I sound muffled to you?
No, I'm just making sure I am not with my headline, my airline pilot gear on here.
Yeah. Looking like you're in the driver's seat of the airplane.
Exactly.
So long time no see. Thank you so much for coming on. Looks like it looks like we're not live on Facebook, but I'm gonna make sure that it gets posted immediately after this show. But let's talk about Warren Builds, right? Warren Builds didn't start out as Warren Builds.
No, we actually started off as Warren General Construction. Was the first name.
I think I did know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So in 1999, my father was working in real estate, and I was a couple years out of college, and he was. It was when the housing market was booming, and he was taking interested home buyers to different builders to introduce them to them and basically have them build the house. And you know, he kind of came to me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in trying to get into the home building business?" And kind of a segue into that was kind of just working as a construction manager for somebody who
Mhm.
wanted to build their own house but didn't have the time to build their
Yeah.
own house. So they would hire us as a construction manager to be an extension of themselves to build their own build their own home the way they wanted to. You know, very custom. Have a lot of the decision making. Unlike a typical builder, you kind of have a short list of different products that you can choose and decide to go with, but you don't. You know, it's not like it's typically not a complete custom home. And if it is, it really costs you an arm and a leg. So it kind of gave them an opportunity to be their own kind of general contractor, but hire some young dumb kid to be their construction manager, which was me. So that kind of got me into the industry, and you know, over time I wanted to grow, so I gravitated towards doing a little bit more development work, but then ultimately gravitated towards being a commercial builder, and now I primarily only work in the commercial space.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, and what about your background? You know, where are you from, and where'd you grow up, and where'd you go to school?
Yeah, I mean, so my father was in the Air Force. I was actually born in the Philippines, but we moved to Prince George's County. He was stationed at Andrews Air
Oh,
Force Base. So in the early '80s, we moved to Prince George's County, and so from latter years of elementary school. So I went to school in Clinton, Walden Woods Elementary School, and then
hmm.
Stephen Decatur in Clinton. And then I went to McNamara in Forestville, to Bishop
Oh,
McNamara.
oh,
And
okay.
so I pretty much grew up. I mean, I grew up in Prince George's County,
Yeah.
and then I went to University of Maryland. And then after University of Maryland, I kind of went off and traveled a little bit for just a couple of years. But then I came back to Prince George's County, and that's when we started the building business.
So, what's the what's the outlook for the construction industry, and I'm interested in your perspective as a Black CEO, you know, in how you go about getting business, and just, you know, the world of construction is not easy for a lot of people, and I just want to get your perspective on that in the construction industry.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, I think keep in mind, I mean, like I said, I've been at this for 21 years now, you know, and I still feel like I'm really kind of a baby in this industry. I mean, you know, there a majority of these large businesses and I would say just majority owned businesses in general typically have been around for generations, you know, at least two, three. I mean, even I'm working with Gil Bain on the this upcoming school project. So the P3 project, we're on the team to help build these 6 schools for Prince George's County. And you know, Gilbane is a fifth generation company. I mean, they've been around for 150 years.
Uh-huh.
You know, I mean, I don't most of if not, I mean, I can't even say most, all of us, you know, we didn't have that opportunity to have our basically, you know, lineage create businesses, you know, back in 150 years ago.
Right.
We didn't have that opportunity. So how can you, you know, I mean, the scales are already tipped. You're competing against a company that's been had a 150-year head start, you know,
Mhm.
and maybe, you know, maybe 150 years from now, hopefully someone will be able to take what you know what minority businesses are doing now and keep passing the baton from our
Mhm.
generation to the next generation. And you know, in 100, so basically 129 years from now, you know, my business that I've started for 21 years will be in business for 150 years. But you
Mhm.
know, so that's what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
You're really competing against companies that had that much of a runway. And
Mhm.
like I said, that's why I still am just grinding and scraping and scrapping to have hopefully a business that will be around to pass on to my next generation or to the next generation. You know, if I can, if I'm still here.
Sure. You're in the commercial space. How tough is it to get into the commercial space?
It took time. I mean, it took me probably, I'd say, a solid, 10, 12 years to really kind of break in and get my foot in the door. It's definitely, I think, easier to get your foot in the door in the residential. There's less barriers to entry in the residential space. Commercial, you're dealing with more sophisticated clients. Your competition is really the big thing. I mean, you're competing against businesses that are, again, second, third generation, and there's a lot of risk. You have to create the bonding relationships to and the financial relationships to withstand the blows, because you're going to have many blows. It's a tough business. I mean, there's so many variables involved in construction that can cause havoc, that you really have to be hyper vigilant. So it's a tough business.
I think it's tough for anybody when they're starting out. When you started your business, did you have mentors? Do you still have them now? Are you a mentor now?
I definitely try to be a mentor, specifically first and foremost to my employees and team. I really try to. I'm reading a book called Raise Your Game. I forget the name of the author, but it just talks about how coaches and leaders, best practices and just characteristics. And I'm trying to learn to be a better leader. And one of the things is just being a servant leader. And I'm just really trying to take an approach that at the end of the day, my goal is to invest everything I can into my team, my employees, which in turn will hopefully inspire them to want to grow and do better and be a better champion to our customers. So I'm trying to start with my team, and then hopefully that just cultivates into them helping, promoting them working and helping in their communities, and just kind of spreading that little ripple effect in that way. I don't know if you remember, but one of my biggest challenges and I would say kind of gripes from when I was young and starting off with business was I had really no one to go to from a mentor standpoint. And that's when my brother and I started that Minority Building Industry Association. And that's what, MBIA. So that was the whole point of that was coming. It was a meeting I had with Councilmember Harrington. It was probably 2003, 2004. And I was in the meeting and I was kind of griping to him about not having any minority or I'll be specific, Black mentors in construction. And he kind of made a comment to me in passing. He's like, it would be good if there was a Black or minority construction industry where, folks can network with each other and find mentors. And I left out of that. I called my brother and I said, we need to start an association that brings Black and minority construction owners together, and we can network and support each other. So that's what we did in 2005. And we had it up to like 70, 80 members. But then the recession hit and everyone fell off. And then we were just trying to survive at that point. So.
Yeah. As a minority business, it can be tough. Have you been able to do a lot of business in the county?
Yeah, I mean, most of my business is in the county. I would say 90, 85% has always been in the county. I've always only focused on the county. The county's kept me busy where I didn't really, a lot of folks, especially minority businesses, set up shop in Prince George's County and in DC, over the years. But I've, I grew up in the county. I had development projects in the county. Everything I own is in the county. I just never really had a desire to work outside of the county, which maybe partly to a fault, because I didn't take advantage of growth that probably could have occurred from being, set up in DC and other places. So right now I've been focused on Prince George's County, and then also Baltimore. So I've set up an office in Baltimore to try to really grow our presence and footprint in Baltimore. So we're doing actually a project in Morgan State. We're doing again another team association with Gilbane, but we're building the student housing building for students there in Morgan State, which I'm pretty proud of. You know, being an HBCU. So
awesome. Yeah. So, and I want to get to that, but I do want to talk about certification, right?
Yeah.
You've been certified in Prince George's County. I mean, I'm sure you're state certified.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
and probably certified in other areas too.
I'm certified to be certified.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing is I know that like the back of my hand, you know.
Yeah.
You have to in the construction industry, but I mean, I've done it now for 21 years, and I can, you know, I know that like all the certification process like in my sleep, and it's a necessity, you know. Again, as being that you're competing against these businesses that have been around for generation after generation, you have to take advantage of any competitive advantage or any kind of vehicle that's in place to help you gain more opportunities, more experience, and more exposure, and that's what those certifications are for. And they've been a lifeblood for my business to be able to grow and sustain and hire, and you know, so it's a necessity. So I mean, that's first and foremost what any minority business needs to do is to take advantage of vehicles that can help them get a little bit more exclusive opportunities and to work in the projects.
I'm glad you said that it's a necessity, because oftentimes when I talk about certification, I don't necessarily talk about it as a need, but it is a need. I talk about it as, you know, it's optional, but it can help you. I don't really say that it's a need. I'm gonna start saying that, right?
It's a need.
But how so it's obviously helped. Can you share how it's helped you?
Yeah, I mean, specifically on just gaining opportunities to projects because they, you know, have well, one, you know, they have requirements for participation, you know, for minority business. I mean, MGM is a prime example. I mean, that was a great opportunity to be involved in that project at a larger scale because they were really pushing to make sure minority businesses had an opportunity. That allowed me to have a seat at the table, to bring in a partner and fully participate and gain so much experience on that project. We did all the landscape, site furnishing, site carpentry, all the soil you see on the terrace of MGM. We did that. It was about 2,000 yards. We craned onto that terrace. I mean, you know, this all the vehicle of being MDOT certified, MBE certified, Prince George's County MBE certified. That all gave me an opportunity to have a seat at the table and show what we can do. And we, you know, had an opportunity to deliver. And of course, you still have to step up to I mean, it gets you to be able to step up to the plate, but you have to be able to swing and you have to be able to get on base and actually, you know, perform. But it gave us that opportunity to do that.
Okay, let's talk about this this project you got going in Baltimore. So what exactly are you going to be doing for the student housing, right?
Yes, so we're building a multi-story student dorm, basically student dorm for Morgan State, and we're in association with Gilbane, and so basically we're the on the team for the construction management team that is building it. So, you know, any type of construction project management team has project exec, it has project managers, it has project engineers. So you basically have a staff of team that is overseeing the total construction project, and we're on that team participating and helping to bring that building to fruition.
Oh, wow. Are you looking for any photographers for progress photos?
Yeah, you know, the funny thing is my project engineer who's out there sent, they have this Multivista like camera that shows live video feeds and everything, and then they do drone flyovers for, you know, so it's all real sophisticated stuff. But yeah.
Yeah.
Please, I know for my company we are always looking for it.
Oh, okay. Well, good.
as well.
De Geneva photography could be your photography company.
Absolutely.
So I'll talk to you offline on that.
Yeah, exactly.
So let me just ask you, as a minority business, and you may have already talked about this, but what specific challenge have you had to face and how did you overcome it as a business owner and specifically a minority business owner?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest challenges as a minority business owner is this industry, has been a certain way for many years. And to be quite honest with you, a lot of the skilled trades and a lot of the actual companies that do the work, they're, especially from an ownership standpoint, they don't look like us, like they've been a couple generations, and ones that are more established are majority owned companies, and so trying to build those relationships is a little bit more difficult because it's a relationship business and a relationship kind of transactions, and they have had these relationships with these other non-minority businesses for years and years. So you're trying to break in, create these relationships with these firms that have been working with these other firms for years and years, and their father was working with the other company's father or grandfather, and they get preferred pricing and things like that. So it's just I mean, one of the things that I'm working on putting together right now is a Black business construction. I think what we're calling it, Black Business Construction Roundtable.
Okay.
And so which is not a surprise, but we've realized like there's so many trades, meaning like you have trades like you have concrete, you have steel, you have drywall, you have um, millwork. Millwork is like cabinets and trim and stuff like that. You have flooring. You have all these different trades that there's only like one or two or three that you can find a Black business that owns a company that does that kind of work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of shameful over all these years, that Prince George's County has been developing and doing National Harbor, or start off with RFK, National Harbor, MGM, all these developments over 20 years or 30 years. And you can't, like, we're trying to find, Black owned businesses that we can do business with. And it's like a needle in the haystack, they're non-existent.
So you're saying that it's hard to find minority businesses to work with?
I'm being specific. It's hard to find, not to work with, because obviously if we found them, we would work with them. It's fine. It's hard to find. I mean, I wish I had it up right now. Like Black businesses, I'm being specific. Like we're looking for, like this Black Construction Roundtable, we're looking for like a networking of Black business owners in the construction space, so that we can network with each other, support each other, not just to be exclusive by any means, because we want to be inclusive, but we want to support each other and help each other to grow our businesses. But we couldn't find, or we're having a hard time finding Black owned drywall companies, Black owned millwork companies. There's one or two, but Black owned companies that do large concrete and foundation work, things like that. So it's just, I guess what I'm trying to say, long story short, is it's a tough business, and to create, and then on top of just for us as a general contractor, finding businesses that we can build relationships with, that's tough. But also just the skilled workers, there's not a lot of skilled workers, let alone a lot of Black skilled workers, and because they don't really gravitate to the construction industry anymore, they go to IT or other types of communications or sports, kind of businesses.
So how do you fix that problem? I mean, because I've heard both sides. It's not necessarily do what you love, it's do what there's a need for. So if there's a need for it, why aren't Black business owners starting these types of companies?
Because it's tough to start and maintain and grow the business in those trades, you know, because again, you're competing against businesses that have been around for generations.
Mhm.
And it's, you know, it's just very, and then it's tough both ways. It's tough to find good people to do the work. And then
Mhm.
it's tough to find opportunities to compete against these companies that can get better pricing from suppliers and vendors. And, you know, they have the better workforce. It's just you're just fighting an uphill battle where the
Mhm.
barriers to entry end up kind of knocking you right back out of the game.
So it's like you're getting it from both ends. The challenge comes both ways. It's
Yep.
getting into the industry because of these other businesses that have been out there for so many years, more than decades, but even like centuries.
Yeah.
And then you can't find any of the entrepreneurs who look like you and I,
Right.
to,
Right.
to own these types of companies, to start these types of companies.
Yeah. And the workforce as well, you know, because I mean, you know, a lot of the workforce, what they're gonna get paid better from firms that have been around for a long time that have the business. So, you know, how are you as a new business owner going to be able to pay more than them or offer them more than them, you know,
Right.
from a benefit standpoint and a salary standpoint? So, you
Mhm.
know, it's tough to
Well,
crack into.
can you, with in that aspect, can you contract work out so you're doing independent contracts until you are able to build up and establish yourself and build up capital, and to be able to get to a point where you can actually hire W-2 employees.
But you won't be competitive because you're
Okay.
competing against, you know, everything at the end of the day, especially with the way things are being procured, is best price, you know, not necessarily best value. So it's the
Okay.
lowest price, you know.
Yeah.
So if they're going for, if I'm a developer and I need to keep my costs down, or if I'm
Mhm.
the, you know, the county and I need to keep my costs down, I'm going to
Mhm.
go with the lowest price that I can get. And who's going to give you the lowest price is, you know, not somebody that the lowest price is gonna come from the folks that have the W-2s and they've been in business for a long time and have the best prices from the suppliers, you know, better than you're gonna get. And then so you're competing against that. And then if
Okay.
you have to then there's and subcontract to a company like that does it,
Mhm.
why they don't need you? You know, they go straight to the company that can give them the low price. You're just a middle person at that point.
So how can and I don't know if you've already started or you're working on it. How can your roundtable, help to solve that problem?
That's a great question, and we're trying to figure that out. But we're just trying to just to try to move the needle, you know,
Mhm.
during our generation.
Yeah.
You know, especially, you know, again, I'm being transparent, but you know, to me, like the whole Black Lives Matter, I think that's, you know, I think that's it's needed. You
Mhm.
know, I think it's needed from all aspects, socially and business. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think our interview was supposed to go in this direction, but
No, I don't think
sorry.
so either.
But sorry, I
But
think
Black businesses matter, right?
I think it matters. I think it matters to the community. I think it matters to the community at large. And I think you know, creating and investing more into it is important to help, you know, build up the community, you know,
Mhm.
as a whole. You know, what's that, the rising tide, everyone, all the ships rise in the rising tide, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know, I just think that it's critical that we see that as a must. If we, you know, it's again, if businesses have had a 150-year head start,
Yeah.
how can you expect all of a sudden for
Mhm.
business owners to just be able to pop up in certain industries? Now, mind you, certain other industries you could argue, oh, you know, Facebook's only been around for what, like 15 years or what have you, but the construction industry's been around for thousands of years, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
And these companies and businesses, again, I mean, I just use them as an example. Like they've been around 150 years. They had a 150-year head start,
Yeah.
basically, you know, from
Mhm.
a person that's starting a business out today. So how do you expect? And they didn't have an opportunity to start a business 150 years ago. That wasn't in the cards, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, just that alone to me is like, okay, there needs to be something that helps just create opportunities. You know, granted, you'll have folks on the other side that might disagree with what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying, but I think, you know, to me, it's like it's important to give opportunities so that people can have, if they want to be an entrepreneur, that they could go after their dreams, you know, to be an
Yeah,
entrepreneur. So.
absolutely. Absolutely. So with all of that said, what advice would you have for someone who's looking or even thinking about starting a construction company?
I mean, I would say just in general is just to being a business owner in general is just, you know, you have to be, at the end of the day, what's gonna be the difference between success and failure is passion and perseverance. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you have to have the passion and perseverance that's going to get you up day in and day out. It can't be
Mm-hmm.
about the money, because the money's not going to get you up day in and day out.
Mm-hmm.
If you're chasing the money, you know, you have to just have it inside of you that you just want to be an entrepreneur. And again, I've been grinding for 21 years, and I can't tell you how many moments where I just wanted to throw in the towel.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's just something, you know, inside that just says, you know, it's like that meme where the person is chipping away inside the tunnel, and he
Yeah.
turns around and they show a cut section, and he only had like a 1 foot left to go to get through
Mm-hmm.
the other side. And I just keep telling myself that, you know, I only have 1 more foot to go
Yeah.
every year, and it just keeps me chipping away like Shawshank Redemption, you know.
Yeah. Um, okay. So you got this project in Baltimore. What else is on the other side for Warren Build?
I mean, one of the biggest, like I said, my biggest excitement right now is around building these 6 schools. I mean, I just think it's such an impact for Prince George's County. They need new schools.
Yeah.
I went to school, and one of our sister schools was Lorraine, which is one of the schools we're renovating.
Yeah.
You know,
I
building a new.
was.
Drew Freeman, yeah, is going to be. They're building a brand new school right behind that specific school, and that's going to
Okay.
turn into fields and everything. So I'm just
Mm-hmm.
excited about this project altogether.
Yeah.
I can't wait like 3 years from now to deliver these schools to the county and have them be state of the art. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
schools are going to look magnificent,
Okay.
and just be 2021 schools. I mean, there's kids are in schools that are from 1950, probably 1940,
Yeah.
1950, 1960. You know,
Mm-hmm.
my school, Stephen Decatur, and one was probably the exact same school when I was there in the 80s, you know, let alone they were probably there 20, 30 years before I was even there. It's
Right.
just
Right.
crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It
So,
is.
so to be able to deliver state of the art schools, um, that you can put a 2021 stamp on, that's going to be kind of insane, you know, and it's exciting. And I hope more schools come behind it, and they can renovate every school that's in the county, and just help get Prince George's County to the next level.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Shane, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience. If anybody wanted to reach out to you or learn more about your company, where would they go?
Yeah, to what you have flashed there, warrenbrothers.net, you can find out all the information about us, which is going to be soon. warrenbuilds.us will be the new websites coming out in the next 2 weeks or so. And you can find I don't do a whole lot of social media. I know you asked me about that. I don't do a whole
I
lot of
did.
social media. That's my old school side. But our new website will be up in 2 weeks, but you can get to our website now at the warrenbrothers.net.
All right. Well, thank you and good luck to you on everything. I look forward to seeing those 6 new schools. I'm excited about that myself.
Yeah,
Very proud.
absolutely. It's good to see you too. It's been a while.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'll be checking in and keeping up, and maybe we'll have to have you back on again sometime in the future.
That'd be great. We can showcase those schools.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, you have a good night.
Thanks, Denise. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Well, You heard it here. We got 6 new schools coming to Prince George's County. That's being that, and who's involved in that is Warren Bills. I want to thank my guests. That's our show for today. I want to thank my guests, Pastor Orlando Jermain Bego of Bego Enterprises, and Shane Warren of Warren Bills. And next week, I want you to pay attention, because next week we have a really good show. The next entrepreneur that we're going to be featuring, Bernard Wright. He is president of Wave Welcome. So that will be next Thursday. The show is moving to 6 p.m. So mark your calendars and move up your clocks, set your clocks, because we're switching from 7 p.m. to 6 p.m. I want to thank you again to all my guests, and thank you for tuning in. We are here every Thursday. And again, next Thursday, starting in March, we'll be here at 6 p.m. Thank you again, and see you, and I'll say good night.